All right, guys, my guest today was on paper supposed to be a lawyer, international law, master's program, the whole respectable track. The kind of career that makes aunties approvingly nod at weddings. Instead, she's a children's book publisher who works with an illustrator in Italy, manufacturers in China, markets in Ontario, and somehow makes that sound like a normal Tuesday. She is the founder of Touching Tales, author of Daya's first airplane ride. She walked away from the safe path, ghostwriting under alias before any of this was public, and is a way of talking about grief, storytelling, and business that makes you want to take notes and also call your father. Harpreet, welcome to the show.
Stronger, smarter, faster, healthier, better.
Hi, Norman. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction.
No worries, no worries. So you wanted espressos.
I did,
Espresso with tequila.
Espresso martini with tequila. Still coffee, right, in the morning.
Yeah, still coffee in the morning.
And I don't normally do this in the morning.
It's okay. It's okay. Cheers to that.
Thank you.
So I've never actually tried it with tequila, and it's pretty delicious.
It is, right? So it's very good. I find that tequila is an upper. Vodka can sometimes slow you down a bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, so pairing the tequila with coffee, why not? They go hand in hand.
Exactly. Do you have a favorite tequila?
I don't. Well, Terramana is really good, so yeah.
Yeah, Terramana is really, really good.
Yeah.
How's your day been?
Good so far. How's your day been?
It's been good.
Yeah.
This weather going back and forth from like winter wonderland to spring to summer. It's crazy in Canada. It's not a good time.
It's confusing, especially as a mom when I'm picking, my kids up and I see all the different sweaters, t-shirts.
What are you wearing today?
Did I do it right?
Yeah. You're like sweaters all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had a mom tell me layering. Layering is important. They can take off what they
whatever.
need to.
Yeah, that's true. Layers are important.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the business part, I want to start with your father. So I read that you said your father was your first storyteller. So I wanted to ask, what's the earliest memory you have of him telling you a story?
You know what? My first memories of my dad telling stories was, even if he were telling them to me, I was probably too young to even understand them. So it wasn't so much the plot itself, but it was a feeling. Like I remember my dad was quite the socialite, I'd say, and we'd gather people at our home often. So we had summer barbecues, we had, these winter get-togethers inside, super cozy. Yeah, the drinks would be flowing and the food would be there. And my dad would, it's a laughs. I think my earliest memories are just a feeling in the room, people laughing and just wanting to be a part of it. Seeing him and just looking up to him and being like, wow, you made everyone laugh that much. Or sometimes cry. Like I remember the rooms would get silent and they would be passing around tissues. And I'm like, Dad, you made them feel like that through the story that wasn't even his. Sometimes he would be telling a story of someone else's Eddie knew and he was able to put them in those shoes, and make them feel that way. He had this way of just, connecting with others and having them connect with each other. So that's how I fell in love with him.
What do you think, makes a person have that special capability of connecting through storytelling? Is it the eye contact? Is it the way you enunciate your words? What do you think it is? What do you think made your father stand out when it came to storytelling?
You know what? That's a very good question. I still think about it and I'm not 100% sure of the science behind the storytelling. What I can say though is while he told the story, it would really resonate with you for the sense that he felt it. You can always tell when someone tells a story and it actually means something to them as well and they're not just telling you like blah, blah, blah. And I find with my dad, these stories meant things to him, even if they weren't his. If he was maybe walking down the street and someone told him a story, if it resonated with him, you could tell. Like he would feel it when he would tell it. He would get emotional at the right times or, think something was really funny and sometimes break out in laughter while telling it and have to tell everyone, give me a minute. Like I'm going to tell you eventually. So I think that's why others kind of connected to that and could also resonate with the story.
I read too, with great storytellers, when they're telling you something exciting and they're getting excited, you inadvertently get excited.
That's what
or
it
if
is.
you're getting emotional, they start getting emotional.
Yes.
And you mirror what that person is saying. So I think it goes back to what you were saying, like if he would tell the stories that really resonated with him and maybe you could tell that like, wow, this really means a lot to him, whether it's funny, whether it's sad, whether it's
Right.
meaningful.
Oh, 100%.
So
Yeah,
that's
I think
interesting.
so. Yeah.
Would you say that he had more funny stories or a good mix of
You know
like,
what? A very good mix.
Yeah?
Some stories are very intense as we grow up.
Really?
Me and my sisters were like, wow, like
That's so
Dad
funny.
told us that one, but all very good stories because he was a good storyteller. But yeah, and they stuck with you. I had like, yeah, a lot of good stories from him over the years.
Yeah. When you were younger, when you guys were like, before bedtime, was it books or was it him just talking about stories?
For him, it was always storytelling. For my
Yeah.
mom, it was books. My mom was a teacher
Okay.
and my preschool teacher as well. And so she grew up with nursery rhymes and telling us stories and all of that, reading us stories. But my dad, no, he would ditch the book and be like, let me tell you guys this one. Like,
Yeah.
it was just a brief
Let me
flow.
tell you about my day today. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty
what it
awesome. I read also that you said that he was a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
Okay, so yeah, my dad had so many businesses throughout the years. Apart from being a real estate agent, which he never put down, he always sold homes. He was invested in many different companies. He had a restaurant at a point. He had a limo service at a point. Just ever since I can remember, my dad had so many different ventures going on. Traveled quite a bit as well. So yeah, he was a serial entrepreneur for sure.
Which one did you feel like he kind of had the most passion about?
The most passionate about? Real estate for sure.
Yeah.
And that was his primary one. He loved selling homes. When we were young, he would take us to open houses and we'd run through the big homes. And we were little kids. Everything seemed big to us.
Yeah.
We just loved it.
Yeah.
And also there were other hustles that he had on the side. And I remember from a young age, I was his receptionist, for fun. Would go to the office with him and just pick up the phone and learn how to do that. But a lot of different businesses. What I loved about that was how excited he would get with a new project. Or like a new idea that a friend had that he wanted to involve himself in. So, yeah.
What's like the craziest one that he's like, I think I want to try to do this?
You know what? Funny you say that. I was just talking the other day to my husband about it. And this was in his later years. He wanted to buy a plane. And
Oh, wow.
I was like, what is going on? Like, I started seeing books in his home and they had like to do with learning how to fly a plane. And then gradually I started seeing, things he'd print out about planes for sale. And I'm like, what's going on? And then one day he just called my husband and said, can we meet up about something? And he told him, he's like, I found the plane already. And he's like, I just need a place to park it in BC. And my husband's from BC.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know, like, Dad, if this is the best idea. He's like, let me talk to my wife about it.
Yeah.
And I tried to shut it down. I'm like, guys, this is a bit crazy.
This is kind of crazy. What did you want to do with it?
He wanted to,
Like
I
just
guess,
private flights and stuff?
private flights. Start another business essentially with it. Yeah. Yeah.
And he still had time to like storytell and everything like that?
You know what? A big piece of this that I have not mentioned is that in his later years, my dad was a pedestrian and he was hit by a car. And so he was an incomplete quadriplegic in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
The last maybe 10 or 11 years of his life. Yeah, but he was still doing this where he was, looking for
That's
the next
amazing, though.
business. Yeah, very excited
Good
and
for
eager
him.
to, yeah.
for-
Yeah, he never lost that passion.
No, clearly not at all.
Yeah.
So when did you first realize that what he was doing when he told you a story and the way that he, the room leaned into him, that it was a skill, that it was not just a personality trait that he had?
When did I first realize that? I think I realized it the older I got, much older, that it wasn't essentially just the storytelling. He was doing something else that's so important for us as humans. He was making people feel seen. Yeah, because the stories he was telling, were very different from each other and unique, and people resonated with them. It was things that people had gone through that he knew, etc., and people felt very seen and connected. And what I took from that is like he was able to weave humans together with these stories. Yeah. So that was I guess, craft. Yeah, behind the charisma that, I used to just think he's so likable and his stories are great, which they were. But it was about making people feel seen, essentially.
Would you say you're more like your father or your mother?
It's so hard to say. I say I'm like the perfect hybrid of both.
Okay, that's
because
amazing.
I love reading and writing, and I love literature. I love books. I have an English degree as well as criminal justice, but I just love all of that my mom instilled in me. And then I love the storytelling aspect. Me and my husband host all the time. We love get-togethers. We just love bringing community together, and that's my dad. So I have, a very
Are you
healthy.
the storyteller now?
much of a storyteller. Yeah, I tell stories quite often. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to talk about your, double life basically. But so midway through your master's, you're working like a 9 to 5 and
Yeah.
ghostwriting.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. How did you like transition into ghostwriting?
I call it like my secret romance, but it wasn't to a human. It was like to this writing, and I didn't ever really talk about it. I was known for being already very legal and very studious and academic. I had my degrees, and then I ended up initially thinking I would do law school. I didn't because of my dad's accident. I decided to be a paralegal instead. So I went that route because I'd be closer to him, and my mom was aging, and just, have a more comfortable, quicker outcome. And as I did that, I finished paralegal. I worked for a lawyer, and it was great, but it was grueling. It was long, 9 to 9 p.m., like long days. Wasn't really getting that closeness I wanted with my family at the time. So I switched to a private college. I worked in head office. And as I enrolled in a law program online, because I had my degrees, it was only now a 2-year program for me. And I'm like, I'm going to do this law school thing. I started writing, but it was under an alias account. It wasn't my face. I'll never forget. It was so old school. It was me in a mirror selfie with my phone covering my face. And I had this name on Instagram, and I just started writing. I had gone through a bad breakup at that time. At that time, it seemed bad. It wasn't that bad, but I guess I was.
Well, hindsight's always 20/20,
exactly,
right?
I was very invested in it, and so I think a lot of that writing was like sad. It was sad writing, and it took off. I had thousands and thousands of followers. I was invited to a Napa Valley Writers Retreat that I ended up going to secretly. I didn't really talk about it or tell anyone. It took a sick day or two, and I went. Only one of my friends knew about this other life of mine, and she was so supportive. She always encouraged it. My ride or die best friend for like 25 years now, and so she knew, and it was just my thing that I was doing secretly on the side.
Interesting. So when you were trying to write, were you trying to write just once a week, every day? Were you trying to do a little bit? How did you incorporate that into your life while also trying to
I think due to the breakup and things feeling so intense, when you're just going through something, I would probably wake up most mornings and write something, and then, every other day do a post. But it wasn't something I actually thought of in terms of content creation. I got to get 3 posts out this week.
I see what you mean.
It was just so raw and emotional, and I was feeling some way, and I just went with it. I thought nothing of it. And then I had people reposting me. I had indie musicians want to turn some of it into songs.
Really?
Yeah, just
That's amazing.
A lot of good feedback, and I'm like, oh, people like it. I was surprised, and I was happy, but I was almost not ashamed, but shy of it. It felt very vulnerable to me, and people didn't know me for that, so I didn't really want to associate too much with it. That's why I kept it very private. Yeah.
Interesting. So would you say that it was almost therapeutic?
It was so therapeutic. Yeah, you're right. That's what it was. For me personally, it was just a therapy of getting it out there, writing it out, and sharing it.
And are you the kind of writer that writes and then scraps it all and then writes it again? Or what's your process of that?
Back then, it was just writing it and getting it out there. There was no process. Now as a writer, I love writing, sitting with it for a long time, coming back to it, seeing how much I like it still. As an editor now, which is what I do with a publishing house, I have more of a process where I come back to it every week and look at it, etc., and try to edit it for other reasons. But when it came to that style of sad, I call it sad girl writing. That's what I call it. And I had quite the following with it, but it was very raw. Very raw.
But that's good though, because as we said before, it's therapeutic, but also it almost over time probably refines your writing skills, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did anyone in your life, other than your best friend, know the 2 versions of you technically?
There was one coworker at the head office of the college who I'm still friends with, and it was so funny. She knew, and sometimes I would post and come to work, and she would have this code talk with me. I saw that post, it was really good, but we didn't want anyone else to really know me for that, and they didn't know what we were talking about. But it was nice to have that with her as well.
Did you tell her? Or did she find out?
I told her. Yeah, I told her. Yeah, I had that.
Was that scary telling her like, hey,
Oh, 100%.
just to let you know, I'm kind of doing this on the side and stuff like that?
Definitely, yeah. But I mean, she loved it, and yeah, it was great. Yeah.
What was the first moment you remember thinking, like, I'm not going to finish this law degree? And I'm going to,
Yeah.
I'm going to, really go forward with just writing.
Yeah, so I finished my bachelor's of law, so I finished that component. I was pregnant with my second son when I realized, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be home for yet another year instead of articling or doing my accreditation exams because it's an international program. So that's when I decided to be a little ambitious and do the master's. I'm like, I'm pregnant, I'm going to be here for 9 months, let me do a master's. So I started it when I was pregnant, and as I was going through it, even while I was pregnant, I had a bad pregnancy, but I just wasn't that invested. And I knew that while I was going through it, but I was getting through it. And I think the moment I failed one exam, and I've never failed an exam in my life, and I felt it. I'm like, oh, like, A, is this for me, or B, am I just not fully in it because I'm sick during this pregnancy? And I was kind of contemplating already with myself, like, do I even want to do this anymore? At least the master's component of it. And I think when my father passed away, I had a retake of that exam I failed about a week after the funeral. And everyone is telling me, just send a letter, right? Just take some time off and you can write that exam again later. And I'm like, no, like it's a retake, I'm gonna do it. And my desk back then was situated right in front of my window in my master bedroom that looked out to our backyard. And I remember starting the exam, and it was a case analysis. And it was about a car theft and whatnot. And as I'm working on the case analysis, I just remember drifting, like looking outside the window, remembering that just 2 weeks before, my dad was in that backyard for the first and last time. He had come to our house, and he, it was a shock, had a heart attack a week later. But I just remember looking at the backyard and thinking that I wish I had gone out there. He was there in his chair, and he couldn't come inside the house because we didn't have a ramp. So we were waiting for more people of our guests to gather to bring him in. And as he was out there, I remember him like calling me and saying, hey, like, just come hang out for a bit. And I was making dinner. I was making acorn squash and all this Thanksgiving stuff. And I'm like, Dad, just don't want it to burn. Like, just hang out here. And I remember coming out with his coffee. He loved when I made his coffee. And that's the last time I made it. I remember coming out with it, and he was on a video call showing my sister, who lives in BC. He was showing her my backyard, and he was so proud of it. He's like, wow, like, look at her backyard and this and that. And that was kind of like, yeah, one of my last memories with him prior to the dinner, which was so busy. There were so many people there. And so when I was writing this exam, looking out to the backyard, I'm like, oh, like I focused so much on perfection, like that dinner and making sure everything was perfect that day, not knowing, of course, we never know what's going to happen.
Of course.
But instead of like just connecting with him. And yeah, so I got back to the exam. I, of course, finished it, hit submit, but I just kind of knew right then as well, like, finishing that exam, like something was like telling me, like, stop focusing so much on that perfection, like just focus on really resonating with what's around you, what you actually want to do with your life.
And what makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So that being said, we talked earlier, but so you lost your father the same week you gave birth? Yeah. All right, guys, we'll get back to the podcast, but I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to our sponsors, Northern Hydration. So it's a Canadian company. They sell electrolytes. They have lemon, they have lime, they have orange. My favorite is the orange. It's one of the best flavors in my opinion. But use our discount code GetAlpha10. Other than that, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. And hosted at Thanksgiving.
And hosted at Thanksgiving. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So
yeah.
what were the emotions there? Oh like how were you dealing with all that, just compartmentalizing? Were you little moments where you had to go for a drive and be sad? Were you just writing little things to yourself? How did you? That's a lot.
Yes.
Every single one of those things is a lot, let alone together.
Oh, of course.
So talk to us about how you dealt with that.
I always say it was my highest high having your first child, for me at least, as a mom. Having this beautiful baby boy, falling in love with him so fast. I grew this, came out of me, oh my God. And then my dad is my best friend, telling him about it, right? Right away, I was gonna see him in a couple days, and then losing my best friend, like less than 7 days after having created my love of my life, I find. One of the loves of my life, my little boy. So very high, very low, very short amount of time. Mental health was a big one for me. I wasn't well. I felt like, my life was crashing down. I think that I had planned so hard and for so long about what it would be like to be a first-time mom, breastfeeding, for example, and this and that, and my body went into shock. I couldn't produce breast milk, like right after my dad passed away, and I just felt like everything, like nothing as I intended for it to be with the birth of my first child was going that way. And I was also missing my favorite person, my hero, my support system. Couldn't call him. He couldn't be a part of something he was so invested in. He was so excited. I'll never forget when, we told him we were pregnant and this and that. And he was so eager to meet baby and be with baby and do all these fun things. And he didn't get to experience that. One interesting thing is, like, my son came a week early. 1 week exactly from the due date. And my dad was coming to Thanksgiving, and so everyone met baby like when baby was 2 or 3 years old, 3 days old, sorry. And my dad got that one meeting with him, which was never meant to happen. So I always find it's interesting how things align. My dad got to meet him that one time. They have a photo together. My son won't remember it, but I do. And it's just a beautiful experience they have together. And so when I was going through that, I just tried my best to be present. Because, I wanted to make sure I was for my son and my husband as well. It was our first child. We were going through it together, and try just to, hold it together. Yeah.
Did you find that you wrote more to help with
I wrote a lot. Yeah.
to help through therapy of
Definitely,
yourself?
100%. Yeah. I had a therapist, and I still have a therapist, and I think therapy is so important in general.
Of course, yeah.
But for me personally, as a writer, writing can do for me what no amount of therapy can. Like, just the words pour. Like, no matter what I'm feeling in life, if I just write about it, I instantly feel at least a little better. Yeah.
Do you just sit down and you just write about what you think? Like, I'm just so curious how that process works.
Often, in terms of my dad and losing him, I think a lot of what I wrote was about the grief, for sure. I wrote a letter to him. What I never got to say, I thought, that was just something I wanted to get off my chest, And his funeral, I did, put it in there with him. And I think writing just my feelings all the time, as opposed to just sitting with them and letting them resonate with me. It felt like it was a form of letting go, just a little bit. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then just the support you had, like, did you feel like people had to, walk on eggshells with you because they don't want to be like too much with you or too little? Or did you communicate, like, I need this right now, I need that? Like, how was that, especially with your husband?
Yeah, it was tough. I can't lie. I think that the toughest part of that was that I was now a first-time mom. And I wanted to spend time with my son, but in the same breath, I was grieving. And it was hard for people to really determine around me, should we give her baby? Like, I would just get back from the funeral. Does she want baby right now? Does she not want baby? Baby is Kabir. Baby has a name. He's 4 now.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things where, no one really knew what to do and how to handle the situation with me. I remember going to clean out my dad's apartment, and I spent, oh my God, so much time there, going through his things over the years and cleaning everything. And I remember getting home and seeing my son, who was 10 or 11 days old now, and like just feeling like, I haven't seen you for 24 hours. And I just gave birth to you, and I felt bad about it as well, but I was going through something, and this is just a situation. It was what it was. Yeah.
So you've written that grief and wonder were sharing the same breath. How do you hold both of those at once, as a new mother at that time, and then also as a daughter?
I would say that with my sons, especially the first, given my father had just passed away, I had to really push myself to be present initially. And then very quickly, I was able to sit with, what would my dad want? Yeah, what would he say to me? And I know what he would say. He'd be like, listen, princess, get your shit together.
Yeah.
Like, life goes on. And I know. And he would have laughed about it and been like, hey, you know what? My dad's favorite line was, it's a part of life. I could tell him anything was wrong and he'd be like,
it's just a part of life.
He's like, it'll be fine. My dad is a super positive person. And so I had to just bring out that part and like pretend that he's still here and he's going to call me and be like, what are you doing? And just, take the best out of the situation, the lessons, the fun traditions. You know what I did? I created a system where I thought of all of the fun things, that my dad gave me and how I could incorporate them in their lives, our boys. And we do some really fun things, like the air shows my dad would take me to every year. A lot of fun things, putting things in a hat, picking one out. Every Sunday, my dad would do that with us. And these are little things of my dad's. We have a day, we call it, Grandpa Day, and it's his birthday. And we always just go do his favorite things and donate to his favorite places. And we do that every year. So it's fun. Just gotta find your ways, through the grief to incorporate the good things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk more about your Touching Tales. So Touching Tales didn't start as a business plan. So where did it actually start from?
Oh, Touching Tales. You know what? With all of this background of the writing always being in me and me writing throughout all these years, but never doing anything of it. After my sons were born, my husband is a serial entrepreneur, and I found that I was just he travels quite a bit. And I was just traveling with him, and I would be there as a support system. And of course, I would help with the back end of contracts or what it may be, but I wasn't doing much of my own thing other than writing as a hobby. And that's when I realized that reading to the boys what they needed, what they didn't need, what they were missing as well with representation. But more than that, just from a learning aspect, I watched them and I grew in terms of gaining knowledge and insight on what kids enjoy, what they like, sensory components, cognitive ability, all of that, doing my research. And that's the birth of this publishing house. I started by writing and realizing I wasn't going to let anyone else publish. I reached out to some publishers and I didn't love the lack of collaboration. And as an author, I felt a little guarded about my work and what I wanted it to represent. And so that's when I knew I wanted to create something that for authors was more of a partnership. Like not so much of a, hey, let me bring you this and you can change all of it. I didn't want that. I wanted to give them a little more autonomy because as an author, I know you want that with your work.
What's the difference between self-published and not?
So you can self-publish 100%, anyone can essentially, but then you'll definitely need help with the manufacturing component. You'll have to find your own illustrator. You'll also have to kind of be your own agent, unless you want to source one to, build those business partnerships in stores and, for the sales aspect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you were building this, what was the first concrete thing you did to push it forward?
The first concrete thing I did, looking back, before any of this was a thing, I think as a children's book author, the first concrete thing I did, not knowing it at the time, was my baby shower for my very first son. I asked for books instead of gifts, and everyone signed their books. It was their favorite books. So they had these sentimental messages, and my boys had a library from the moment they were born. And people would love it, but they'd also think it was a bit unusual. They're like, wow, some of these books they can't.
Many books.
Yeah, and they can't read these for, the first 5 years of their life. They can't read these, some of them until they're 20 or a little older, reading comprehension-wise, adults. And it was just something I knew in the back of my head, but couldn't explain to anyone yet.
Okay.
It was deeper than that because I guess my love for reading and writing, as I said, stemmed from way before. And I knew I wanted to build something where people could connect and resonate with literature and books. And it would be more so a place where no one felt alone. So getting everyone's favorite books from our friends and family, I love opening a random book right now and saying, oh, so-and-so likes this book. Let me check it out and see what it's about and understand them better. It's cool. I love it.
Do you find the good in all books, or are there some books you're like, I don't like this book? Certain things that you don't like in a book, the way it's written?
You know what? I love Robert Munch books. I still do.
Robert Munch
But
he's the
grow-
OG.
Yeah, no, but they like really teach my kids sometimes to be a bit crazy, right? I don't know if you've read Thomas the Snowsuit or
I've definitely read
yeah,
Thomas.
where Thomas says no, right?
Yeah.
So it's become like, for a little while, my son Kabir, it was his favorite thing to say, and it was because of Thomas. So I'd be like, baby, like, let's get your boots on. He'd be like, no, and I'm like, just over and over.
You're like, we're not reading this anymore.
But it's all Robert Munch books, which we love. We still love. Mortimer. I don't know if you've read Mortimer, Be Quiet.
No.
Yeah, that's another one. I'll be putting him to bed, and it'll be like, Kabir, like, it's time to sleep, and he'll be like, cling, clang, rattle, bing, like a huge song.
Oh, really?
I know every word to
That's-
these books. And so, yeah, as much as I love Robert Munch books, I mean, I don't always want to read them to my kids.
Fair.
Yeah.
Do you have favorite authors?
Do I?
Yeah.
I have so many favorite authors.
Not in order, but like a couple that you like.
Personally, I love Robert Munch because I grew up on Robert Munch. But I don't know. I'm just not as, I guess, rebellious, or I don't follow books to a T like my kids.
Fair.
Yeah, adult authors. One of my favorite books is from Tara Westover. It's called Educated. Yeah, it's amazing. It's such a
what's
good
it
book.
about,
It's more of
roughly?
it's more of a memoir style, and it's about her upbringing essentially, and how she came from a family, and a father specifically, who didn't believe in institutions as much. So she grew up a little differently, but ended up going the educational route. That's why it's called Educated, and fought a lot of adversity to get there because she didn't grow up like that. So it's a very empowering book. I'm really big on classic literature. I love Ernest Hemingway. I love F. Scott Fitzgerald. Anytime I travel, I look for bars that Hemingway went to, because I don't know if you know much about Hemingway, but his philosophy was to write drunk and edit sober. And so he just would go around the world and like find his spots where he would drink, and he would write, and he would write wonderful things, in my opinion. So recently we were in Spain, not recently, about a year ago now, and I had to go to that one bar, that was known for Hemingway being there. And I do that. I love doing that. Done that in Cuba in the past as well, and it's nice. Yeah.
So your first time publisher in industry, you weren't really raised in. What did you not know that you had to learn along that way to kind of get with the business of that?
So much.
So much. What?
I think, okay, the biggest one, Norman, is timing. Like, I never
What does that
realized.
mean, though, timing?
I never realized how lead time, let's be specific. I never realized how much of time it takes for, a single book to go from an idea into the hands of someone. When you really look at it, when it's not now no longer just me and other authors that I'm working with, I had to develop a process of, stages and timelines and what we're doing. And realistically, it can take sometimes up to a year from that initial manuscript, editing it, taking it back to the author, them not loving the changes, bringing it back to you. Sometimes you want to create even more things, like a new moment of tension, for example. So now you're rebuilding on that initial story. That goes on for a while, and then the illustration process, from a board to, actually happening, to pages and the layout and whatnot, and then the sample of the manufacturing coming, and then returning it and doing it again, and so forth. And then marketing, of course, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is a very, it's the lead time. And that's what I had to learn the hard way. I think for myself as an author, I kind of overpromised myself, really. I'm going to get this done in like, 3-4 months or whatever.
3-4 months, yeah.
Yeah, initially, when I didn't really, know much about this world. But now I've learned, and I'm learning, and I love it. And that was the toughest lesson, especially being me. And I love, just acting on things and learning that. Yeah, it takes time.
So what's the average time then to write a book? I know that it depends on like the pages and everything,
for
but what do you find is the average amount of time?
Currently, I can give you examples of children's books for now, and I'd say like I recently signed on an author, and she has, some, I'd say, experience writing already, which is great, because some authors don't. And, the manuscript process is a lot longer. So she had already presented me something written, and we've been going back and forth on it just a little bit and tweaked the story just a bit. Now we're going to go into illustration, and then manufacturing will take about 3 months. So, there's that. And initially we'll get the sample. I'd say altogether about 7 to 8 months if we're really, making our meetings happen on time, and no one's going on vacation, then
Fair.
Yeah.
Oh, so it takes a good amount of time.
Definitely,
like
yeah.
a lot of things. But I guess if you're trying to put your heart and soul in everything and make sure everything is described properly and revised, and it doesn't make it disingenuous. It just you want to make it as great as possible to your words, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So why boutique? The word gets used a lot. Like, what does it actually mean for you to operate when you say boutique?
I agree with you. That word is everywhere.
Everything is
right?
boutique because it's like it's sexy, right?
It is,
Boutique
yeah.
gym, boutique
Oh, you're
this. But what does
right.
boutique mean for you?
Yeah, it's sexy and it's a premium feel, but that's not what it means to me. I would say boutique really means small. And I like that we are small and it is so intentional, whether anyone believes that or not. And it's because what we can give as our team is presence. And a lot of these big publishers can't give you too much of that. You'll get a meeting every couple weeks or whatever it is. I am accessible all the time. I have 2 authors now and I tell them that. I'm like, one way or another,
text
you
me.
email me, you call me, you'll
Yeah.
find me. You show up at my door,
Yeah.
right? Like they get that. And I think right now with our small team and the way we operate so intimately, we are really, in every sense of the word, a boutique. And I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world right now.
Talk to me about Daya's first airplane ride specifically. Why touch and feel book? Why that story? Why that's the first? Like, talk to me about that.
It's definitely the first because of being a mother and that giant pivot while I was a mother and you were a mother of opening this publishing house. What I was doing mostly was reading to the boys. So it was definitely going to be my first project as a writer. And I think it was necessary for them. Like, my boys are growing their hair. We are Sikh. Well, we are probably 1 million of us in Canada at this point. Canada is such a melting pot. We're so diverse in this country. But still, for some reason, I find when you go to bookstores, being this mom, like taking them, wanting to really instill, you guys read books, you're not seeing enough of them on covers or even as supporting characters in books. So for me, that was a big one of wanting them to feel seen, wanting them to feel like they're just like everyone else. My books with the Daya Discover series, they don't focus on religion. And that's also intentional in the sense that it was just about everyday experiences and everyone understanding that we are about 1 million, like I said, of Canada, right? The population, and we're just like everyone else, and our kids do the exact same thing. So, and for other kids to see that and just develop the empathy, I guess, and the understanding of any questions they may even have, which sometimes I get from, a Caucasian family of, hey, what is that on his head, etc. And getting to explain it. I love explaining it and educating. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's a little similar because I don't want to say I didn't care about representation too much.
Yeah.
But I wanted to understand it more once I had my daughter because I'm Latin. And for
Yes.
some odd reason, like when she was born, I was like, I kind of want her to like understand her culture a little bit more. And it's so interesting how kids bring that out in you.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say like I didn't care, but it was just kind of like going on about my day situation. But it's interesting how children can make you want to push that more and for you to understand it more and then for them to understand it more, and I think there's something special that you can have with them about that.
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
So I find it very sweet that like a child can bring that out in you.
I love that. Yeah. And you know what? You hit it on the head. I think once we're parents, we start seeing the world ourselves a little differently. You're now looking at it to see, what are your children seeing and what are they taking from it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I even like, especially with my daughter too, I just start realizing like, I don't mean this to sound funny, but we were all babies. At one time, we were all innocent. We were all just like, and it was just our upbringing and situations that turned us into the people we are, right? And it's just so, I just pay attention more to like people's actions now because I'm just like, did you not have that support, or did you have this and this? And just, I think about that a lot. It's just like, now I see people, it's like, oh, well, like we're all just children, and then we had different paths.
Yeah, I read something somewhere, and I can't quote who it's from, but it was like, loved people love people. And like what I took from that is, when we instill love into our children, they're going to go out into the world and instill it into others, right? And when we don't, I mean, it's not always the easiest to have them not be bitter about it or, have these issues. So it's important to some degree to, try our best to surround them with all the best things.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but so you're illustrators in Italy. right?
Yeah.
And your marketing is in Ontario,
Yeah.
right? And your manufacturers in China,
Yeah.
right? So that's a lot of time zones.
Yeah, but my marketing is here locally.
Yeah, marketing's here. So how are those Zoom meetings? Like how is like bringing that all together? How do you hold that with different time zones and everything like that?
You know what? Okay, so I'll start with simple answer.
Take a sip. I feel like I haven't taken a sip yet.
Right, I've just been letting it sit here. I'll start with the simplest answer, which is Christine, who is our manufacturing in Asia. I meet with her when the boys are asleep at like 12 a.m., right? And that's great. I don't mind it.
Okay, that's great, sure.
But I'm also a morning person. So with Marco, I meet him before his dinner, which is usually 9, 10 a.m. my time, which is fine. And I get to ask him what he's having for dinner. And
Which is fine.
Yeah, I dream of pasta and I salivate, and he's out in Italy, right? But I love that. I love that he's my morning meeting usually. And then I have Maria, who is right here in Ontario. We can grab breakfast, lunch, dinner, and go to events together, and that's wonderful too. So yeah, it works, and it works very well. I would not trade it because what I find is synergy is so important. You can be in the same office as someone and be across from each other and just not have that connection and that alignment.
That's true.
And
the same vision too, right?
Yes,
Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah.
No, yeah, 100%. And so if you're not aligned, even in the same room, your productivity is going to be crap, right? It's going to be shit. So to have someone around the world, two people, and have this connection with them where we work so well together. I love working with them, and I find like we're already like this little family. They get me, I get them, I get Maria, our marketing so well, and it's great. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for someone who's my next door neighbor who, is qualified. I love my team. They're wonderful.
That's amazing. So you said that every part of your build has a person behind it. But in an industry where like AI generated illustration is becoming very normal and very fast, what's your stance on it? Because obviously it saves time, it saves money.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts and opinions about that? Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode. I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to one of our sponsors for the podcast, Methylene Blue. You can find this at Paradigm Supplements. We like to use it here at the podcast just because it helps with gut health, immune system, ATP performance. Use code GETALPHA15 for a little bit of money off. Other than that, let's get back to the episode.
It's such a slippery slope. Don't get me wrong. I think AI is great for certain things. I think AI can bring speed into any equation, right? You can do things a lot faster with accuracy, and that's great. I think AI can be a great tool. I think why it's such a slippery slope, especially in my profession and with creatives, is that it can also get rid of that human component. And with that human component comes a feeling of why you create a product, of why, you tell a story, and the certain nuances and whatnot that I personally just don't feel like AI can fill in for. So personally for me in a creative field, I don't love the use of AI. I love that Marco, is doing our illustrations, and I love watching him put together these storyboards. If we want to submit it into, ChatGPT or whatever it may be, I'm not going to get to see that process. And sometimes with those imperfections, because AI will give you everything back perfect from, right, what we see, comes your perfection. Like, right, you build off of those imperfections. There's something even as an artist where those imperfections are the art itself, to be honest. And AI will never give you that. So yeah, personally for me.
It's interesting because you almost like can feel or sense like the human touch of illustration. It's I don't know, like the way I can compare it is like even when I read comic books, like there was just something human about it. And I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know how to talk about it. So it's interesting because it's like I go back and forth where I'm like, I understand like time, right? I understand obviously money is a corporation.
Yeah.
But it's just I think also the process of it was like if I'm going back to like comic books, like it just would suck that like you enjoy illustration so much and you're good at it or amazing at it, but at the end of the day, they just want to cut that cost.
You're right.
And like, and it's not like illustration and all that stuff is, I can imagine it's very hard to make it a good income and stuff like that, I feel like you have to really push in that world. Like
The
it's
starving artist, right?
of course,
Yeah.
So I feel like I would feel bad even more that like it's like what are they gonna do now, right?
Oh, I agree with you.
So,
Yeah.
like you said, like I think there's great tools to AI, 100%. I think it's awesome as a tool, but it is a slippery slope in the sense of becoming less human.
You know what I wonder? I wonder, still on topic, is if we will get sick of the perfection of AI and just miss, that human component of not having everything be so perfect. I personally already am a little sick of it. I like seeing that little bit of imperfection in things, right?
Yeah, I really think that like in like 10 years that people will actually pay more money to find somebody like a human to do something
I think so
because they're
too.
going to
Yeah.
crave that human touch. Like a little bit the same thing, but like during COVID, people who were not extroverts
Yeah.
wanted to be around people.
You're right,
Right? So I
yes.
think the sense of something being taken away from them so much is like, and somebody else is like, listen, I'm going to do it. I'm
Yes.
going to do this.
Yeah.
This is me. I will put in those hours. I think people are going to crave that human connection, human touch in writing and illustration.
I think so too, yeah.
Because it's like when it's like it's always a pendulum. Like when something is pulled away so far away, there's a craving on the other side, and
It
will
starts to
go
swing.
back,
You're
right?
right, yeah.
So that's my prediction. That's my
I
prediction.
have-
I do like AI in
do too.
in brainstorming.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's amazing.
Love it
You're
for
right.
brainstorming.
Yeah. I had such an interesting conversation this morning actually about art in general,
Mm-hmm.
and just the fact that currently with artists and creatives, they try to lean away from the AI
Mm-hmm.
because it's taking away from their craft, even when they're creating. And when we look at like Banksy and like all these artists and how they rebelled with their street art and whatnot, it just came across this idea in my head. And I'm like, this is something, I can't really formulate it yet, where we as humans, I think in maybe 5 to 10 years, in our own little ways are going to be having like that wall graffiti of some sort. And I don't mean literal wall graffiti, but just wanting to scribble and be imperfect and just get away from this such automation of, being
Like
perfect.
perfect. Everything is just like
Yeah.
yeah. I agree with you. Okay, Daya's first airplane ride features Sikh father and older brother on the page. How intentional was that choice for you to have that? And what was the response from families from that?
Very intentional, because like I said, I wanted them to feel seen. I wanted them to feel like they could be the main character. Windows are like our first, for children at least, their first book into, what the world is like. So it was super important for me that they were represented, given our population as well in Canada.
Yes.
So going back to that, I find with Sikh families, I've had so many reach out and thank me and be like, thank you, like you provided, something else that they can look at and feel like they're just
Yeah.
like everyone else getting on that airplane ride. And my son, he goes to a Montessori. They both do now, once in half day, and they are the only visible Sikh children there. So even there, like all the kids in his class have, my older son, the 4-year-old, have the book. Majority of them do, and the parents reach out and they love it. And I love that their children are reading it, and they're not Sikh, right? But just developing and gaining that understanding that this is normal, we're normal as well. And yeah, I love it. So
That's
it was
good.
very intentional.
So we talked earlier about alpha. What does it mean to you? And so you wrote to me that alpha sometimes looks like a decision made at a kitchen table after everyone else has gone to sleep. I really like that.
Really?
I really
Thank
like
you.
that.
Yeah.
What was in your past your kitchen table decision that you felt was like an alpha move for you?
I want to take this back a little. So
Okay.
when my marketing burst reached out, Maria reached out to you, and she told me about the podcast, and I watched it and I loved it. I love your interview style. I love who you've had on here. Like it's been
Appreciate
great.
it.
I've been like checking it out quite a bit, even on my drive here. Well, I listened to your podcast actually on
Mismatched? Yeah.
But going back to it, I sat there and I'm like, am I right for this podcast? Am I an alpha, right? And I was just trying to understand the word, and me being so literary, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm very much an alpha. And I had to just take it back to that and understand for me what alpha means, as well as the big, bold decisions. And what initially in my head alpha meant was maybe when I first think of the word a little different, right? So yeah, even though I'm a bit more quiet, and I move a little differently. I'm very much an alpha, and that's because of the decisions I made recently, especially with this publishing house and these sacrifices and these big, bold moves that were made at my kitchen table, straight up in the middle of the night, of when the kids are asleep, my husband's asleep, of, hey, like, I want to do this, and can I do this? And is everyone else in this family ready for me to do this? Being the mom, being the primary caretaker, being the nurturer, can these guys handle me doing this? You know, and so these are some big, bold moves I had to make, and I made them for myself, and I feel very alpha about that. Yeah.
I think alpha too is just doing the thing that you don't want to do, or that you know that is right, or the hardest for you.
Yes.
Right? And that brings out the best part of you. You know, I think some people can make it too much of a thing. You know, like a lot of people like to say, like, you know, like alphas lead the pack and stuff like that, which is so not true when it comes to like wolf culture. So I don't know if you know, but like, you know the saying that alphas lead the pack, right? So do you know when it comes to wolves, the alpha is actually all the way in the back?
I did not
you
know
this?
that, no.
So the way it works in that world is the betas, the loud ones, the ones who have bravado, or actually the alpha puts them in the very front in case there's enemies or anything like that, for them to also prove themselves if they really are an alpha. And then they have the cubs and the mothers, and then they have the strongest. Alphas are always in the back, and the strongest is at the back. So it's just interesting because they say leading the pack, but really the alphas lead from behind because they need to watch over everybody.
It makes sense. Yeah.
So,
wow, that's deep. Yeah.
But I think it's just so interesting because it's like, that's just not, I don't know where that saying came
You're
from,
right,
but like,
yeah.
that's not how it is.
Well,
alphas are quiet.
Yes.
Alphas pay attention. Alphas take care. They protect. Right?
See, so initially I thought I was the wolf of the pack when this came to me. I'm like, I don't know if I'm the wolf of the pack. But you're right.
You're the wolf
I love
of your
hearing
pack.
that. You're right.
You're the wolf of your pack.
Yeah, but as a mom too, essentially, we don't look at ourselves as, you know, the wolf of the pack. But I mean, I think being a mom in general, with the sacrifices and all we put in and the big decisions we make, I mean, we are essentially also the wolf of our pack.
1000%. 1000%. Okay, so your husband is a serial entrepreneur. So you had your dad and you have a serial entrepreneur. So you've been surrounded basically by people who bet on themselves their whole adult life, right? What does the world get right, in your opinion, about that world, and what do they get wrong? Because I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like that hustle culture, everybody's a founder nowadays, everybody's an entrepreneur, but what do they not understand that you've seen with your father, you've seen with your husband, that is the reality of that world, of being a serial entrepreneur, an entrepreneur in general, actually.
You're right. There's so many realities that I think people get wrong. With my father and then my husband, I think something that always resonates with me is that risks are not always just on spreadsheets or like these business decisions we're making. There's so much more to the risk. I mean, there's so many other people associated with it. You know, and now that I'm a business owner as well, I understand that even to a greater level than I did with my dad and my husband. Now I'm in it too. Is that every decision I make and every risk I take, I'm dragging everyone in with me. And that's a big one. And I think that something that we see with founders, you know, I've been surrounded since I've been married for my husband's going to kill me, 5 years now. 5 years we've been married. But that in these rooms with my husband, we've been together for 7 to 8, I've always been surrounded by people who bet on themselves. And I've always admired them. I've been like, wow, like good for you, you know, like you took that leap. And I've never had the guts to do it. Even though, like I said, like in the back of my head, you know, I was writing, I was doing this and that, but I think in a weird way, they also all inspired me, in a very true way, not a weird way, to kind of make that leap as well and bet on myself. At the same time, I've seen the darkness to this world, and I know how lonely it can get. I've known from my dad growing up how lonely it could get.
Very lonely.
I know how much he missed. He would travel a lot. I know how much him and my mom, you know, sometimes he wouldn't meet eye to eye with a lot of the decisions he was making because they didn't bring stability. They brought a lot of, you know,
of course,
chaos, right? And I think with me and my husband as well, before I entered this founder world, of just understanding the stability, especially once we had children, and saying, hey, babe, like, wait a minute. Is this going to take us to Dubai? And it did. Life took us to Dubai for a bit. He's thinking of somewhere else, and we've been working on it. But yeah, like just that life of, the ups and downs and that loneliness that can come from it.
Yeah, I think the highs are very high and the lows are very low.
You're
and
right.
It's just it's your decision, and it's your job to still have faith in yourself
100%.
to keep pushing forward, right?
Yeah.
Because there are always people who've done what you want to do in a worse situation with less than you have,
You're right.
who've got it done.
Yes,
There's
yes.
always, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way that you can
No,
get
you're
it
right.
done.
And
But
it's-
that's where you get in your head and your heart and your soul about things.
And it's so easy to get in your head. And I think with a lot of the founders I've been surrounded with, including my husband and father, I realize that founders, we have this thing where we don't always want to admit, when we're going through something.
100%.
Because we want to look like things are great, everything's groovy. And that is a bit of a downfall when you asked me this question, now that I think about it, it's where they're not connecting on that basis of, I struggled with this and you're struggling with that. And, there's a big likeliness to that and connection there that they miss. And they're lonely. And they go through it alone. And it's not easy. That mental health aspect is there as well. And yeah, I think it can become a very dark place if you don't speak about what you're going through. Not just your highs, not just the milestones, but the lows of, that time you thought you were going to quit. Like Harpreet, the time that, maybe you thought this publishing house wasn't for you. Let's talk about that, right? With each other as founders, and just remember why we're here and why we do what we do.
I agreed.
Yeah.
So how much of Daya's Discoveries is a gift to your son? And how much is a gift to like the younger version of
I
yourself?
think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's a gift to myself as well as, a Punjabi girl, a South Asian, and getting to have books out there once again about representation. And I didn't have that growing up. And then for them, it's a huge gift as well for them. Not even just a representation, but for them seeing that mommy is, following her passion. And my son, my older one, because he can articulate better than the 2.5-year-old, is so happy and thrilled to tell people about what I do. He loves going to meet and greets with me. And you'll often see him if you come by like an Indigo that I'm at, and he's sitting there and he's, showing people the book and talking about it. And that's kind of my gift to them as well. Yeah, the passion behind it and them learning that you should just do what you want sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
What does your work teach your boys about what a career can look like?
You can have fun. You can enjoy what you're doing. Work can literally just be your passion as long as you actually genuinely care about it. I often try to teach them, and I know they know this through their dad as well, that it's not about the money will come. It's about doing something you're good at and you enjoy.
You're
and
passionate about.
And that's a big lesson for them. Yeah.
Agreed. What's the thing about motherhood you didn't expect to bring into your business and ended up, you think, being your edge?
A lot of motherhood.
A lot of motherhood.
A lot of motherhood. Oh my God. Multitasking for sure. The patience and the process of being a publisher, as we've talked about, right? The lead time. But as a mom specifically, you learn that with toddlers. You learn that with kids at a young, while they're very young, of needing to be patient with them. And, good things take time. And
A lot of time.
Yeah. And then the heart. I think I've always been a little sensitive, but a sensitive gangster, I'd say, and so that's what I call it.
I love it.
when I had my kids, I think they opened up, a little more of my heart, and I became a little more sensitive, and I love bringing that to Touching Tales Publishing House. We are touching tales, but at the same time, just more of my heart. I love when I work with authors. I'm allowed to, sit there with them and cry over their manuscript and tell them how beautiful it was, and not have this poker face of it's okay or whatever. And my kids broke that open in me personally. Yeah.
It's interesting how like motherhood can make you guys more sensitive. Like it's hard for not that it wasn't before, but it's just harder for to watch movies that has to do with a baby or a baby passing or something like that.
Right.
But at the same time, there's aggression that comes out that's stone cold. So I find that's parenting in general, but I just find it so funny how it brings you a little bit more emotional. I definitely see things when I hear songs or see certain things that make me more emotional when it comes to my daughter. But I also feel Like I'll fight a room full of 100 gorillas for my daughter. Like I find
As
like
it
I have
should be,
more of a
right?
second gear
Yeah.
to like do more, right?
Oh,
So I find like
100%.
I'm a sensitive gangster myself.
There you
Actually, now that I
go.
think about
I think
it.
most of us parents are. You know, it really elevates your emotions, I
Oh,
think, overall.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You hinted at a longer vision, a space where founders share the foundational human moments that shape them, not the highlight reel. What does that look like if you build it?
You know, I did envision a book, and I've written something, and essentially what it would be is just founders getting to share. I've thought about this a lot. I've come up with a certain set of questions, and they're not the normal questions founders are asked at all. And it goes back to, you know, that loneliness, but in a positive spin of how they overcome it, and, you know, these internal backstage moments that we don't always see. We hear the come up, we hear, you know, a lot of stories about grit and becoming something. We hear the food stamps and all of that, and that is so important, and that brings that inspiration to people as well, right? That they can do it as well. They can come from almost nothing and build something, but we're still missing that component quite often of, while a founder is now a founder, what they're going through in the back end of family life and certain moments, like I said, where they think they should have or may have quit and didn't. What made them stick around? And yeah, so these sets of questions, I call it the entrepreneurial journey of Touching Tales. That will be that little project, and I'll reach out to, you know, a certain set of founders and have them answer these questions. So when I'm having one of those nights where I'm like, damn, like, what am I doing? I can pick up that book and turn to a page and be like, oh, like, look, we all go through it. Yeah.
How do you deal with like writer's block if you get that?
Oh, good question. I just try to write a little bit of the idea that I have, and I focus on imperfection is perfection. That's how I like to put it. It's not perfect. The idea is not perfect. The words might not even be perfect. And I come back to it and I'll revisit it and revisit it until it is something.
Interesting.
Yeah. I find if I really want to write about something, I'll know. I'll either keep talking to someone about it, it'll be in my notes and I'll keep thinking about it. Or often, you know, I'll meet someone and we do this thing, a lot of us do it. Not all of us, but a lot, where we view ourselves as being basic or normal, and we are not. Everyone has a story, and that story will resonate with someone, and sometimes you need to share it so they know they can navigate through something you've navigated through. And remembering that, so when I meet people, and I meet all kinds of people, they help me with my writer's block, because I see them, and I see their story, whether they see their story, and it inspires me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like a writing when you sit down and write? Is there like a tea that you make? Do you try to set up a situation to
Yeah.
write?
I will tell you,
Or
yeah.
you just are you one of those that just go?
Before kids, I had a full on, you know, like, let me get my Merlot out, let me set this up, let me put dim lights, music.
Yeah, the whole
But now as
situation.
a mom, like, it is so frantic during the day. And at night when they're asleep, sometimes even in bed, I'll pull out my notes, and sometimes I eagerly have something in my head and I want to write, and I'll start it. Or I'll creep downstairs and I'll get to writing it, but there's no perfect method for me anymore. Yeah, it just comes. Sometimes I'm driving and I'll do a voice note to myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back to it and I'll write later. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
What would your father have made of Touching Tales, you think?
Yeah, he would have loved it. That I'm sure of. And I think my dad growing up, his favorite thing to say, or at least to me, my favorite thing to hear from him was, guess what? And guess what always came with like some really cool news. So this is my guess what to my dad. I always like think that now in my head, like, Dad, guess what? I started a publishing house. So it's cool. Yeah.
It's your guess what to him.
Yes. Yeah. That's how I envision it. It would be my guess what to my dad, and he would have loved it. Yeah.
What story do you still want to tell? For kids, for founders, for yourself? What do you still want to tell?
It's so endless. You know, personally, I've started diving into a little fiction as I am a writer. I name my documents New York Times bestseller because I'm manifesting how wonderful they're going to be, and I love them. I'm really passionate about them. But my authors, yeah, that I'm working with, one is doing financial literacy for kids, and she's a rapper. So she's telling it in a very, I love it. And
Nice.
it's not something I would have thought of, but she's telling it in such a fun way. And she comes from a social work background, and she comes from, an area of lower income. And so she grew up with not so much, and she watched children, and she wants to help them from a young age learn these things in a fun way with a rap. So that's really cool. Apart from that, I think overall, I just want to make people feel seen. And I don't want anyone to feel alone in general. And through books, it's so easy to make people feel understood because they can pick up a book and be like, wow, that person's been through this and they got through it. So whether it's a children's book and it's just seeing yourself on a cover, or whether it's something much deeper like a memoir that someone can resonate with, I love it. So yeah, I think the future holds a lot for us.
If someone listening right now is living a double life in some way, a safe path and a true one, what do you want them to know?
I want them to know that it can be scary to pivot, but do it. The faster you do it, you'll feel better about it. You'll be living in your own truth. I think it's just so important to follow your gut. Yeah, that's what I would tell them, to follow your gut and to make that great pivot. I made it, and here I am, and I'm very happy about it. Yeah.
All right, let's bring this home. Where can people find you? Get your book. What can they be looking forward towards next?
A lot of good things, like our future authors that we're working with. Other than that, I have a lot of meet and greets in Ontario. I have one coming up at Shareway Gardens again towards the end of May. The date will be out soon. I am doing a tour in BC, 6 locations: Langley, Richmond, Vancouver, West Vancouver as well. I'll be everywhere for those 2 weeks. Every time I do that, I do get to partner up and have our book in there as well. So I'm all about that and meeting the community. I love meeting the community. So I'll be around for sure. And our upcoming author, her book will be out in August for the financial literacy. It's called Kindness Coins, the first one. So you can look out for that. I'm working with a poet. I haven't introduced her yet, but we just signed her on, and it's fun. I love it. So a lot of big things happening and a lot of good things. And you'll see us around community events.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Socials? What are the socials they can look you up?
Daya underscore discovers would be for the books, the children's books, and then Touching Tales Inc. Yeah, for Instagram.
Awesome.
And Touching Tales .inc for our website.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course, this was fun. The drink was phenomenal.
It's amazing.
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
You gotta make it again.
You'll have to make it. I'm just going to come for it.
That's amazing. Guys, if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow her page. Also, make sure to comment and like on the episode. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. We're on the road to 100, and we're doing big things. Wow. Other than that, we love you guys. Ciao.
Thank you.
No, of course.